Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Once again, you are listening to Ragnar's Architecture and Garden Travel. We're talking about the two most beautiful gardens in California, part two, the Huntington Gardens in Southern California. The first one was Philo Lee and Woodside in Northern California, near San Jose and just south of San Francisco. It is one of the richest parts of the San Francisco Bay Area, and the Huntington is located in San Marino, next to Pasadena, also one of the richest areas in Southern California. The Huntington Gardens also have several other parts involved. They have a library, which is one of the most famous libraries that has books and that has manuscripts and books such as the first printing of the Gutenberg Bible and many Shakespeare manuscripts, and has probably the best collection of Western historical manuscripts and artifacts of anywhere in the world. It also has the garden. It also has the gardens. It also has, and Huntington also has several areas named after him, such as Huntington Beach, Huntington Park, Huntington Hotel, Huntington Hospital. He was a big land developer in Southern California. He was a nephew of Hollis B. Huntington, who was the CEO of the western part of the Transcontinental Railroad, that is the Southern Pacific and the Central Railroads, who started the railroads in the west in San Francisco and took it across the Sierra Nevada, took it across Nevada and Utah, and met up uh, with the consortium building the railroad from the east in Promontory Point, just north of Ogden, Utah. So it was he was a fairly one of the richest men and fairly prominent in America at the time. Uh, this is Henry E. Huntington, who founded the garden and the library. He was a nephew of Collis P. Huntington, and when Collis died, he divorced his wife and married Collis's widow, and expected to run the Southern Pacific and the Central Railroad. However, in certain stock machinations, he was forced to sell his shares. However, he was a big land developer in Los Angeles, and he also owned the streetcar system in Los Angeles. For those who remember the red car or the yellow cars, the red car would take people from Pasadena, Glendale, downtown LA, clear out to the beach in Santa Monica. Um, as cars became more popular, that ended. However, it worked for many years. It also, he knew where the street railways were going to go, and he could purchase land very cheaply, which grew increasingly in value as the little railways passed through them. In the garden, he bought in 1903 bought a 600-acre working ranch. It's now 207 acres, and it's only has 120 acres that can be visited by visitors. In San Marino, you'd be looking at least $1.5 million for a 1 acre lot. So the land is quite valuable as development property. It has 15,000 varieties of plants. The gardener was William Hertrich, and the cactus garden for which this garden is primarily known was his baby, not that of Henry Huntington. Henry Huntington learned about cacti when he was working as a superintendent for the construction of the railroad, when he had to avoid a workman and backed into a cactus plant. So it's no surprise that the cactus garden is in the farthest area away from the mansion. You're looking at camellias, which is one of the things they have. The first picture is about 9 feet tall with pink blossoms. The next one is about 4 feet tall. Most of the camellias end up about 6, 7 feet tall. They all flower in the winter, which is really makes them attractive in Southern California. You are not going to put the camellias anywhere where you get a large amount of frost, where you get snow. They also have cycads, which are which are palm-like plants, which have cones like pine cones for seeds. It's a very old plant that not many people know about, and it's really not that attractive to me anyway. They have bonsai, which you will see in the Chinese and the Japanese gardens. They also have the cactuses. Here, right near the mansion, they have an herb garden, and they have some formal gardens to walk through. In the back, you will see the pergola with the roses. They also had many. He also bought many statues to place in the garden. He had one major fountain and many other fountains scattered through the gardens. Here you see the pergola next to the rose garden. When it hasn't been trimmed back, you have flowering roses climbing over the pergola, and it can be very fragrant. He has an enormous collection of roses, and in fact, this is a called Huntington's 100th in celebration of the 100th anniversary of the garden. They hybridized a rose. The workers at the gardens hybridized a rose called Huntington's 100th. It's yellow and orchid pink rose. Um, and you'll notice that the roses are one of the closest parts of the garden to the mansion, which is where he liked to go. Here you see the orchid house in the background. The orchids, even in Southern California, most of them are too tender to grow. As we go into the Chinese garden was closed when I was there. My books have some wonderful pictures, but you have the waterfalls, and you have the moon bridge. The moon bridge, and this is not a typical. This is a decorative moon bridge, but you'll see that it's a true semicircle made to reflect in the water. It becomes a full circle, and that symbolizes the moon, which also symbolizes happiness and contentment. And it's seen all over China, and it was usually much higher than this, and it was used to cross canals, and it was made that way very high and arched so that barges could pass under the bridge and take their wares somewhere else. Here again, you see the rocks that the Chinese like to use. You see the water features that are used, and you see a bridge. I can only um, see parts of this garden, but you can see the bridge going into the water and the ponds and the grass coming down to the water. Here's the Japanese garden. You'll notice the moon bridge is not a true semicircle, so it's not going to be as symbolic as the Chinese. The Japanese started copying the moon bridge in the 13th century when they had found the bridges in China and decided to copy them. Nowhere did the moon bridge signify the doffing of one's pants until a group of USC frats decided to display their etymological prowess in giving the moon bridge a new meaning. Although perhaps that last part is an urban legend created by a UCLA grad. There are many parts of the moon bridge, and they are not particularly easy to walk on, but they were created for a commercial purpose. But the rolling grass, the bonsai, and the little pieces of Japanese pottery and carved stone are really nice. Here's an entry to the Zen garden. You can see another pergola in the back. And here is marching up to the Zen garden. The Zen garden is formed by a bed of gravel, and then they rake designs, and the designs can be changed. If you've never tried a Zen garden, you should go and take an hour and sit and meditate. It's amazing how effective this method is. Notice the garden is totally walled off, so the noise of the other gardens or people coming through is is silenced, and you can change the designs according to your whims. The last and most effective is the cactus garden, which covers 10 acres. They brought full-sized plants in from all over the world. It is the most complete collection of cacti in the world. It is truly amazing. And for those of you who've been to the desert in the middle of the summer and look at these as fairly barren plants, um, it would shock you to see in the spring, if there's been a good rain, how beautiful the flowers and the blooms can be. It's really immense. You can walk for 10 acres. I personally have a 20-acre uh, plot of land, and to walk around the 20 acres, it takes me about 1.2 miles to walk around the property. So 10 acres will be a considerable hike, walking through all the paths to see all the various. And here's an example of an aloe in bloom. And as you can see, it can be quite magnificent. The colors get from yellows, oranges, reds, primarily. It is really spectacular. So if you have a chance to go, not this year because everything's closed down due to the coronavirus, if you have a chance to go, it would be spectacular to go in April or May, and with any luck at all, you might be able to go in May this year, but we can't count on that. But here's part of the cactus garden, and not in bloom, unfortunately. They also had vast lawns. They had huge trees. This is the first garden in America where they transported and translocated grown trees, fully mature trees, to bring in so that he wouldn't have to wait to grow. For those of you who've grown gardens who might be my age, I no longer get 5 gallon plants. I no longer get 24-inch box trees. I'll go with a 48-inch box, or I might not live to ever see the fruition of my plans because it grows too slowly, even in Southern California. So Mr. Huntington brought in huge trees, some of them 60 feet. Some of them, as you can see in the background, are going to over 100 feet. They have nice lawns. They have nice walkways. They have all, like I said, 15,000 varieties of plants. You have a huge lawn, which is fairly close to the mansion, with a fountain in the back and a view of the mountains, which rise to over 6,000 feet in elevation in the background. I hope you enjoyed it. And next, we will take a look at the mansions at Filoli and the mansion at the Huntington Gardens, which is now used as an art museum and has excellent examples of French architecture. And after that, we will show you what you're missing in Italy. You cannot go to Italy right now. They don't even have the gas stations open. So it would be pointless. And if all the gelaterias are closed, there's absolutely no point in going to Italy. So we will show you what you missed. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the next video that comes out. Thank you.